Welcome to the Christmas edition
Yes.
of Music Milestones YYZ, Scott Turner and Ivor Hamilton. And for those on YouTube, this week we have our CFNY t-shirts because that's the big topic of the show this week. The CFNY documentary gets a release date, so we're going to talk about that. Ivor has a Christmas hat on too.
I do. I've got a couple of Christmas records behind me. I brought in the original copy of the Z Christmas record, and what was the significance of that was the album that brought you the Waitress's Christmas wrapping for the first time. So that record you see behind me with the writing on, if you're on YouTube, has that was the original CFNY Control Room one, and my spare copy of the Yobs. I have a couple of copies of the Yobs, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Yobs once we get into my 2112 Teardown show too.
Okay. You also, Ivor has a Christmas hat on. Very nice. So I didn't bring a Christmas hat with me. I'm down in Costa Rica, so it is a little more challenging to be into the Christmas vibe. But you know what I forgot? I forgot last week to play a clip of the Howler Monkeys. So if anybody has ever been to Costa Rica or has heard Howler Monkeys, you kind of know. But if you haven't, there's something to behold, especially if you've never heard them before. They tend to do their howls in the morning and at dusk, and they often do it. I forget what they call a group of monkeys. There's a name for it, a band or
I don't know, but
a pack of monkeys.
It's pretty scary, Scott.
Well, here it is. Here's the audio. These are Howler Monkeys. Yeah, they sound like wild dogs or something.
You'd never told me about that, and I was down there, I'd be terrified of that. Like, oh my God, is Satan coming our way, or what's going on?
Well, that's it. You hear them before you see them, and I did look this up because there are they come in different sizes, but the ones in the region I'm in, Guanacaste region, in Costa Rica, they're all about there. And honestly, they're maybe the size of a small to medium-sized dog. They like the body.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they got long arms and tails, but they're really not that big. But you hear them, you think, oh, good God, it sounds like a horror film. But they make a lot of noise for little small animals. Anyway.
Okay. Well, some
Howler
holiday cheer from Costa Rica. Yeah. No Howler Monkeys in sunny Niagara on the lake here.
Yeah. Getting a cold. I know it's a colder December this year, but going to be a white Christmas by the looks of it, right?
Well, not today. I guess as we were recording anyway, it's not going to be snowing for the next few days, but I think with a bit of luck, we will have a white Christmas this year, which is kind of nice. Nice to have that back, bring back some good memories for everybody. So
for sure. Okay. Now, also on the show, yes, we're talking about the CFNY Doc. We're also talking about Ivor Hamilton's 2112 Teardown. A lot of Christmas stuff on this Christmas edition. Lots of Ivor Hamilton this week. Also, we're gonna look ahead. Yes, like you're everywhere. It's great. 2026. Ivor and I have put a Music Milestones YYZ 2026 concert calendar together, and there's a lot to choose from. We'll give you a sneak peek of that, and we'll also post it on our socials so you can see that. Also, people who died. We'll look back at 2025. It's been a tough year every year as new people we have lost, and we'll talk about some of those this week.
And I have
Ivor, I think, yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've got some breaking news. This just came in before we went to air. And were you a Bob and Doug McKenzie fan? I don't know if you were or not.
Sure, yes.
So they have this was a long time in the works because of, how we always go, well, it's the 45th anniversary, it's the 50th anniversary or something. So this is the Bob and Doug McKenzie celebrate 44 3/4 years of Hoser history with a new complete and remastered collection. So anyway, so there's a new package coming out with 2 CD and a Blu-ray of the movie, and that is plus a bunch of outtakes from the film and some outtakes from production and things like that. So anyway, it is was just announced today. It's coming out on February the 27th, and well, I mean, the thing is, even if you weren't a hoser, it was a lot of fun. If you remember it back in 1981 when it originally came out, I think it was,
Oh yeah.
I mean, even that Geddy Lee in the studio, and it's like, why did
Yeah.
you do this, Geddy? Well, $10 is $10, and it's just the movie was so silly, but I loved it back then, right? And
Yeah.
now there's a
Classics.
statue for those guys up in Edmonton in front of
Is
the
it?
New Oilers Coliseum. Yeah,
Oh.
and there's all sorts of quotes too in the album too. There's like Paul Rudd and Bryan Adams and a number of other major celebrities have all sort of uh, put some quotes in there. And he said, Bryan Adams said that Bob and Doug McKenzie were so. This isn't his exact words, but he said that they're. It's so entranced in his road cruise culture that everybody on the crew talks out of the side of their mouth these days because they're just imitating Bob and Doug McKenzie. So good on them.
That's awesome. We should touch on that next week's show. Next week's show, we'll
Yes,
also look at some other releases. Sorry, what's that?
Other new things coming. Yes.
Yes, including there's some, not just the CFNY doc. There's other music docs coming out and new packages and releases, and
Yes.
also we got some albums, big albums turning 40 and turning 50 next year. We'll give you a little sneak preview of what we're looking at in 2026. Okay.
Oh, I did want to make also a quick mention. This is just a follow up from last week when we talked about the Clash and punk rock in London. If you are planning to go overseas, so there is a website called viator.com. That's viator.com. Just log on to that and you will see Soho walking tour of London and Strummerville walking tour. It's a $50 Canadian cost for a 2-hour tour. The gentleman's name is Aiden who does those tours. I've done both of them. I highly recommend them. If you were a big fan of all the places that where punk was born in London and the places where the Clash got their start. These are the tours for you, and there are other tours available too. There's a walking rock tour that you can check out on there as well. So just thought I'd follow up on that. We did speak last week about also the cover of the Clash's London Calling and where one might be able to see that. Currently, you cannot see that. It is not up in any location right now. The place that I looked at for in London went to the site and it said that the venue is permanently closed right now. So I'm sure it will appear at some point, but you can see, and it just eludes me off the top of my head, but Paul Simonon's guitar that he smashed in the photo, that is available to see, but we'll have to get back to you on the particular site. But if you do look it up, it will identify that.
Okay, cool. That's a great idea, that tour. I would like to do that myself. You are, by the way, Ivor's you're heading over to UK.
Yes.
Is there any particulars? You're doing that in a couple of weeks. There are things you're taking in?
Yeah, 23rd of January. Well, I got a couple of soccer games. We're going to go see Chelsea play a game, and I think we're going to see Wrexham play a game as well. We're going to go see the Skids. Now, I never saw the Skids back in the day, but they are playing a concert while I'm over there. That is the only one right now. I have to say that going over to the UK in January, it is completely dead for major live entertainment. I guess everybody goes overseas or goes off to where their families are or whatever, and takes an extended
holiday.
holiday.
Australia.
When it's summer. There could be big day out in Australia or whatever, but it is quite dead. So we're kind of looking for extra things to do at this point. I certainly will be visiting some of these landmarks and doing some of these walking tours, as well as going to various record stores. And we will record while we're over there, and we may even get a guest or two on there. We'll see what transpires. I'm talking to somebody about doing some work I'm quite excited about on a jam project for 2027, because that will be the 50th anniversary of the Jam, their debut record. So should be in the Jam as a band. So
wow. Okay. Ivor's taking all his gear with him, as he said. So we'll continue on with the podcast as Ivor tours UK. Okay. Let's dig into the CFNY documentary. talked about this on this podcast for a couple of weeks that an announcement was imminent, and we did get the announcement. So it's the airing. This is the final, the airing of the documentary is going to be TV Ontario on January 6th. It's at 9 p.m. That's the air date on the channel. However, they have released a press release that does indicate that the documentary will be online through the website, the TVO website, in the morning as of like 9 a.m. Now, I don't know how for sure that is, Ivor, but that's
You're
what
right.
yeah,
Well,
that's what the
we'll see.
press
We'll see
release
what
says.
happens. But I think, you know, you want to do it old school. You know, sit down with some of your friends or your family or both, and put it on at 9 o'clock that night and enjoy it. I mean, it was a huge labor of love for myself and you and Alan Cross and a bunch of the other people that were involved with it, and we got some great people involved in it, and I think people will really dig it.
Yes. Well, maybe we might nudge TV Ontario to say, hey, why don't you just put it online after the broadcast release? Because that's old school. I like that.
I was under the
Everybody gets
impression that
around
it was.
together. Yes.
That it
What's
was.
that?
I was under the impression that it was online after the fact, that it would be online on their website. And the only thing is that it for our friends south of the border, that it is geo-blocked. So the people that are listening into this podcast from other parts of the world, I know we do have some people that listen in from the U.S. and other parts, that it will be geo-blocked. So you will not be able to see it if you are currently reside outside of Canada. But we are working on a solution. Hopefully we can get something done in short order to get it available for viewing in the United States at least, and we'll go from there. The trailer is up, and you can see that right now, and I think we've already posted it, right, Scott? So
yep. But if you haven't seen it, yes, the trailer is up on YouTube and various sources, so you can look at the trailer for the doc. The other thing we want to talk about here briefly is I'll just mention there is also a way to see it before the actual air date of January 6th on TV Ontario. Edge 102, 102.1. The Edge has a contest on right now. It's an online contest. If you go to the website, you can sign, just basically enter the contest. It's a very, very exclusive, limited seating.
102 seats only. So
yes. And Ivor's not making that up. It's actually 102 seats. This is a theater, and we've both been to this theater at Chorus Key, and it's I think upstairs in the 6th floor or something. But it's a really cool theater,
folks.
Really intimate.
This is so exclusive that Scott Turner will not be there. So
yes.
There you go.
Well, what happened is because of the there's a lot of sub stories to the documentary, which we'll get into as we go through this podcast into 2026. Our plans are to have some guests on the podcast, talk about the documentary, especially once it's been out and people have a chance to view it. There'll be a lot of questions. We got a lot of background stories that we'll add to the podcast in 2026. But we didn't know there was so much involved in the in the documentary. I mean, a lot of the footage was done 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of post-production, et cetera, and a lot of other things happened through this process. We won't bore you with the details, but a lot of stuff that was not fun, and a lot of stuff that became a heavy discussion of opinions and directions and things like that. Anyway, so I had booked this trip down to Costa Rica, and I had no idea. All of a sudden, it was like, oh, hey, the doc's going to be released now. Oh, so I'm not going to make that screening.
we had a number of times where we had egg on our face, and it was, oh yeah, it's coming or whatever, and then it was like, it's been delayed or whatever, right? So you did the right thing to do your trip or whatever, because it could have been at other times, and I mean, we were sitting there for the better part of a year, not knowing what was, I wouldn't say not knowing what was going on, but trying to find ways to bring it to where it should be, and get it up and out for people to see. we will be taking thereafter. We will be taking it out on the road. Actually, we're going to Scott and I and Alan are going to do some, and along with some of the other CFNY folks, we're going to do some road shows, and we're going to get it out there. And I can mention that, further details to come, but we will be doing one at Ground Control, third week of February, the third Friday in February. We're going to be there, but more details to come on future podcasts. We're looking at doing kind of a little Southern Ontario run, and along with showing the documentary, we shot a bunch of other things that we kind of did it on our own that we'd like to, jazz it up a little bit, and also do a Q&A for everybody. So you had people had some questions about some people that maybe, were featured in the documentary that maybe aren't around anymore, or some of the bands, or people are going to ask, well, why weren't certain people in it, or why weren't certain bands in it? We should be able to answer all those questions for people.
Yeah, so we'll do, excuse me, we'll do these special event screenings in some instances. And again, we're just, as we speak, we're organizing this right now. Some may include a little CFNY video roadshow dance party after the screening. Some might be just a Q&A. We'll have some special, as Ivor said, some special footage, a couple of things that maybe didn't make the doc that we're able to show, and some other stuff that will make it interesting for everybody. Just to go back to the Edge thing, you can sign up online, because it's very limited seating. You'll get to see it before it airs on TVO. Edge 102 is doing that, so you can go online and sign up, and you might win yourself a couple of seats at that show. And Ivor will be there, Alan will be there, some of the executive producers will be there.
David Marsden's going to be there. So Liz Janik's going to be there. I believe Q107 might have a few tickets to give away too, because, as time goes on, Alan's the voice of Q107, and, right. You can hear Depeche Mode on Q107 these days. You never would have thought that would, thought hell would freeze over before that happened. It is absolutely true. It's not that they play them a lot, but you'll hear them along with Kim Mitchell and the Kings and Heart for the 75th millionth time. But that's okay. That's what you hear out there on Canadian rock radio, right? Listen, little repetition never hurt anybody,
Hotel California, if we hear that one more time. I'm sure they pulled back on that a little bit. So CFNY documentary. So there you go. It's, again, just a repeat, January 6th, TVO. It will be not only on the air at 9 o'clock, and I do broadcast repeats, but it will be on demand on their website. Again, originally they told us it would be after the original broadcast date of time of 9 p.m. It'll be online after it. And then there was a press release that said it would be available online that morning. So we'll find out. We're going to nudge TV Ontario to maybe just to put it online after the broadcast.
And we'll have some more items, some more surprise items to add to it over the next few weeks as more things come together. And great to see this finally out. It was a labor of love of ours for the better part of 10 years that we talked about doing this, and talked to many, many people over the years to finally get it done. And it's been fun collecting a lot of things, talking to a lot of people about their memories, talking to people who, one person said one thing and another person said the other thing, but that's all good. Yes. I had the silliest argument with alternate Earl, about when CFNY got their first fax machine and whatever. I was like, okay, Earl, we each have our reasons why CFNY needed a fax machine. So I take it that both reasons are probably true. We just have to figure out the timeline on that. And we had both our reasons for a timeline, but what trivial little things. It's like, who would have thought we'd be arguing about when CFNY got a fax machine anyway?
And that's pretty common. And between Ivor and I and our research for this podcast and other things, we do constantly keep in touch and discuss and go down rabbit holes to get the dates right. And did that happen then, or was it here? And again, as time passes on, it's funny how people are so sure about such and such, and then we however we discover it, it's like, no, that actually didn't happen then, you know? So
Well,
that's time.
speaking of that, there's one thing that we did discuss on the previous one, and I wanted to bring it up again today, was so on U2, when we talked about U2 at the album combo, and Bono had said, well, the album's going to be out on Christmas Eve or whatever, and we're like, I don't think so.
Right.
And so Scott did a little bit of research, I did a little bit of research, and so in those days, a lot of records came out quite a bit later, first in the UK or Europe, and then out here later, depending on who it was. But in U2's instance, it came out in March in the US, but we were able to do a little digging and found out that it was probably about mid-February in Canada. We didn't nail the exact date, but there was a review, I think, in that you mentioned, Scott, in the Globe and Mail, a couple of weeks before. So we're thinking it was a little bit earlier in Canada, and that was fairly typical at the time, that Canada, in a lot of instances, because they pressed all their own records here back then, that they sometimes things would get out a little bit earlier. And I think, because of the momentum that U2 picked up very quickly in Canada, that they did put it out a little bit earlier than the US. Okay, it just wasn't on Christmas Eve.
Yep. And on that note, talking about last week, there's something we missed last week, and we're going to talk about that in this particular section. This is 50 years ago. So this week, this is our Christmas edition of Music Milestones YYZ, the week of December 22nd to 28th, and 50 years ago, 1975. Is that Ella? Is that Ella?
There must be a package at the door.
Is it? Go.
You can start. I'll go.
Great. Okay.
Back to the door, and we'll bring it down and see what happens.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Ella Ivar's dog barking again, which sometimes means there's a predator, but most of the time we know it's a new package for Ivar Hamilton. And last time we were debating whether it was going to be a book or a CD or album or a box set. And last time I thought it was going to be a book, and I was wrong. And I think it was a soft sell box set or something. Can't remember. So Ivar's heading back upstairs to see the package, and he's going to bring it down. This is like Christmas. This is like the Ivar Hamilton Christmas here. And Santa Claus, who probably has warned Ivar a few times that he's maxed out his credit card with his deliveries of CDs, box sets, and books, music books, is part of the great Ivar Hamilton Big Music Den collection, his entire basement. And I've been there. And we'll do a show live from Ivar's Big Den. It is just wall to wall, ceiling to floor, albums, books, CDs, and there's Ivar opening up a new. If you're watching on YouTube, we're doing this. It's live.
It's a gift basket.
What the?
It was a gift basket. I think it was from. Well, it's not from the labels, but it's a gift basket. I think it's from my investment people. So sorry on the music stuff.
That's very Christmassy, though. That's very nice. That fits right into the Christmas edition.
If anybody cares about any of the music that I've got recently, the big thing this past week was the Pink Floyd 50th anniversary of Wish You Were Here, Dolby Atmos mixes, and all the rest of the outtakes from that. The one thing that I thought was relevant to the package to Canadians is there's a tour pass that comes up on your screen when you play the DVD or the Blu-ray of a tour pass from backstage in Hamilton in 1975. So just thought I'd pass that along for local content, the Ivar Wynn Stadium show, the last one of that tour. So anyway, so where are we? Did I miss the Springsteen conversation or what?
Well, no, yeah, this is perfect because we forgot last week when we were doing concerts 50 years ago, 1975. We missed a huge one. It was the first time Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band played Toronto. Originally, the show was scheduled for Convocation Hall, and I actually have the ad that I will post, or maybe I already did post it online. Yeah, I think I did. The concert was moved to Seneca, and I'm not sure why. Maybe there was just more demand because I think it was sold out.
Yeah, it was. And so, I wasn't there, but anyway, go ahead.
It was I, and I think at that time, I mean, boy, 75. I think Bruce Springsteen wasn't on my radar. It was years later, and I was never really a big Springsteen fan until it was a friend of mine, Steve Whiteside, who kept bugging me, going, "Man, Springsteen is God, man. Springsteen is God. You got to check him out." And I'm like, I don't know. And I listened to a couple of the songs and albums. It really didn't do anything for me. And then he said, "Go see him live, man. Go see him live," which I did. And then that was it. That did it for me. I'm like, this guy is incredible live. Obviously there's the band, amazing live concert. And I remember my first Bruce Springsteen concert experience is and he plays, for those that don't know, he plays for like 3 hours or 3.5 hours. And I am not kidding you. And people that know this from a Springsteen show, certainly back in the day, nobody sat down. And I honestly think everybody was standing for 3 hours. Incredible.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I always try and go see him whenever he comes to town. And I think from, even dating back to the CFNY days, that Springsteen got played fairly regularly on CFNY. I think a lot of the announcers liked it. I mean, even on the 102.1 band working on the radio single, one of the announcers or news guys who's singing on that song, his name was Jim Bird. He is purposely trying to sound like Bruce Springsteen in that song. If you think about it and go and listen to it, not a very good Bruce Springsteen, but he was trying really hard in there because he was such a big fan. I love seeing him in concert, seen him in Toronto, seen him in Buffalo. And down the road, I was very fortunate to work with Little Steven, and I got to meet the cast of The Sopranos because of him as well. Nice. And that was just so cool. And nice. I took Little Steven record shopping one day, and
Get out. That's awesome.
I took him shopping on a Sunday, took him into Soundscapes, right? And so they had been in town. They brought Little Steven's Underground Garage show to the Hard Rock in Toronto and recorded a show at the Hard Rock. Honest to God, his research team were playing bands from Toronto that I had never ever heard of before. And they go, "Oh, well, here's so-and-so band that played, from, whatever it was. It was like from Scarborough District High School, and this was their recording in 1964 or something." I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about. They did all this stuff. So the thing is, and so they really knew their local material. So anyway, he goes, "Well, would you like to go shopping?" He goes, "Would I? I'd love to go shopping." I took him to Soundscapes. Now, Scott, I don't know if you ever shopped in Soundscapes when that was around.
I can't remember that. Where was that?
Store. It was on College Street.
Okay.
It's not there anymore, unfortunately, but yeah. I always would go in there and empty my wallet out. I could never get out of there under $100 every time that I went in. And it was the same with a few other people that I knew you always found, because they prided themselves on the Mojo and Uncut magazine records and just some of the coolest records in the world that they would have in that record store. Well, Little Steven goes in there and he goes, "Oh my God, this is the find of the century for me in this record store." He and the people in the record store at the time, they were not fans. They're like, "Oh, Little Steven, who cares, right? Springsteen, what do we care, right?"
Wow.
He spent more money in that store than in the history of the store. He blew close to $4,000 in one person in there, and they didn't even take in that amount with all of their customers in one day. So after that, they became really big fans. But I ended up having to courier him all the records back to New York at the time, because he's like, "I don't know how I'm going to get these back across the border." And so because I was at Universal at the time, I just said, "Well, we'll send it to you." So somebody at Universal, they can yell at me now for it or whatever, but we did. But he was
what
like,
is this bill for, Ivor?
I know.
But it was Little Steven, wasn't me.
It was Little Steven, man. And the thing is, with the Springsteen camp were always good people and always remembered. And so even though they were a competitive label at Sony or whatever, they were always good. So I was very, very fortunate to see him many, many times. And I still think he's an amazing artist this day. And I think because we're in the holidays, I've mentioned this on this podcast before, the first Christmas record we'd ever play on the road show when we hit December was always Santa Claus is Coming to Town. So,
And I should know Doug McClement, who was a good friend of ours and was behind the Comfort Sound mobile recording studio that recorded a lot of the shows that we sponsored and played on CFNY. He's been at a lot of concerts, and he's going to be a future guest. We've already reached out to him. He's going to be a future guest on our podcast in 2026. Anyway, he was at the Springsteen show, took some pictures, and he was saying the set was identical to a couple of weeks ago, a couple of weeks prior, when the recording of Santa Claus is Coming to Town, the Springsteen Christmas song that you hear, was recorded just weeks before the Toronto show. And the sets were pretty much the same. So people would have got that Christmas song, that classic Christmas song at the Seneca College show. So those that have go ahead.
I was going to say the other thing was as we said, it was his first time in Canada and his first international tour. If you can think of, I guess we were considered international, but he also played in Ottawa and Montreal a couple of days before. So they got the magic as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a collector's item to have a ticket for that first Springsteen show. So that was back in 1975, December 1975. What else? Oh, Punk magazine. The other thing about 50 years ago was there was it was almost a cartoon magazine in a sense. There was a lot of cartoon drawings and stuff, but there was a magazine that actually called itself Punk Magazine, and I think it had a lot to do with popularizing the term punk. And they covered a lot of CBGB stuff, the Ramones. I think the Ramones were on the cover a few months later. The first issue came out very late December 1975, Punk magazine out of New York, and I think Lou Reed was on the cover of it. And I used to have a couple of copies of Punk magazine years ago. I don't know what I did with them. I lost them over the years. I wish I had those because that's
same here. I think I had them too, but I don't know what happened to it. I think the thing that's most relevant about that is, along with when it was the whole do-it-yourself etiquette that was happening at the time with bands, as that people were just going to do the same thing about writing about those bands, because they weren't going to get it in Rolling Stone, they weren't going to get it in Cream if you were in New York City, and they wanted to write about the bands that were playing in New York City and the bands that they loved. So they started saying, well, I can, the bands is like, I can make my own damn records. And these journalists were like, well, I can do my own thing because nobody else is going to publish. So it started that, it was part of the whole underground scene that spread right across the United States and into Canada. And so there was numerous examples of all these little fanzines that, sprung up all over the place. And, whether that was, people starting them out of their college dorms, and which a lot of them, happened. That's, Def Jam started out of Leora Cohen and his college dorm room or whatever, right? And Rick Rubin. So labels started and these magazines started that were, a lot of them were proved to be very successful and around for a long time to support those bands and their kind of own little ecosystem of supporting themselves and do it yourself.
Yeah, I think fanzine, you said that word, that's exactly what it was, a fanzine. There was a lot like that at the time. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Some birthdays. All right. So some birthdays this week, the week of December 22nd to 28th. This is the Christmas edition, by the way.
Happy holidays, everybody. Hope you're enjoying it.
Happy holidays, everybody. So turning 80 this week, Gary Sandy. Anybody remember who Gary Sandy was?
WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yes. Andy Travis, the program director. Like 80. He's 80. I know.
I know. Well,
I'll post a picture on our socials because he has aged, of course, as we all have, but he looks great for 80. And did you have a favorite WKRP moment or episode, by the way? And of course, like, who didn't love that show?
I would say like the turkey thing was, that's sort of a pinnacle of most people's things, the turkey thing. There were a couple of, it was funny. There was, the Herb Tarlick thing. And
Yeah.
to me, when we were at CFNY, I thought that, you know, Cliff Cohen was the Herb Tarlick of CFNY. And then we had a guy that would work with when I was at Universal, who our then president at the time, who didn't care for him too much, so he called him Herb Tarlick too. So there was a bunch of Herb Tarlick characters out there.
Well, apparently, yes, it's been discussed that people would usually ask, you know, because I was in radio, they would say, you know, is WKRP, is radio, the radio station or the radio kind of like that? And I'm like, yeah, it kind of
sometimes, yeah, oh, it could be. There were certainly things a lot of people could relate to, right? And of course, a lot of people like, oh, Bailey Quarters, man, she's hot, yeah. So,
yeah. Well, it was either Bailey or you had your favorite, right?
Yeah, and of course the GM too, right? You know, he was kind of a bumbling GM, and I'm like, yeah, I saw that a couple of times too, yes. Right? So,
oh yeah,
and the jock characters too, like, you know, yep. I mean, we all experienced people like that on staffs at radio stations. Scott, you would have had a bunch of people report to you, so you knew the personalities that you had to deal with, right? And
yeah, and I think the writers, you know, wrote some of the characters around people they knew in the business. By the way, I'd forgotten about this when I was writing my notes yesterday. I remembered that Gary Sandy, we're talking about Gary Sandy, who was Andy Travis in WKRP. He played in one of my favorite movies, The Insider. He played a lawyer in that movie. If anybody has seen that movie or hasn't, and you want to go check out that movie, he is excellent in that movie. And I think he talks about that he got a little typecast in WKRP and didn't get many roles, but he's really, really good in that. That's the one with Al Pacino, Russell Crowe's in that movie about the tobacco industry. Whistleblower, right. Kind of somewhat based on a true story. And Christopher Plummer, Canadian Christopher Plummer, is in the movie. He's brilliant in that as well too. And there's another guy going into this movie a bit here, but it is one of my favorites. Bruce McGill plays an attorney in the movie. He's so good. Anyway, great film, The Insider, and Andy Travis plays a lawyer in that, and he's really, really good. Anyway, other birthdays.
I wanted to ask you, Scott, well, because this is the holidays. Have you watched? Do you, as a holiday thing, do you watch a lot of Christmas movies every year? And have you watched a bunch this year?
Yes. So always a favorite. Well, there's a couple, but I mentioned Sound of Music first, even though that doesn't.
Not a Christmas movie, though.
It doesn't strike people as a Christmas movie per se, but it does have a Christmas theme in it. And a favorite movie of my mother's, so that every year I do watch that film.
I understand.
And just recently took an aunt to go see the theater production in Toronto of The Sound of Music. So took that in just recently. But the other favorite film is Christmas Vacation. Is always like, that's never not funny. Like, there's so many bits in Christmas Vacation you could watch over and over and over again. So those are the two that pop into my mind right away.
I did watch Christmas Vacation. I did watch Christmas Vacation this week. I watched Scrooged, and Scrooged, I think David Johansen's fantastic in that movie, as well as Bill Murray's character in that. It's quite good. One that came out a few years back that I every year now has become a new Christmas favorite, and it's a little crazy, was Office Christmas Party. And I don't know if you saw Office Christmas Party.
Yes.
Oh my God. Like, you know, the craziest party of all fucking time, to be honest.
About that. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. And Jennifer Aniston or whatever. And I thought it was really something else. Of course, I always watch Die Hard. Die Hard 2. I like that one better than the original one. And so, and Christmas Story. And I'm a little more joined to Christmas Story now. I always loved it. But here just down the road in St. Catharines is so there's that school scene where the kid puts his tongue on they double dog dare him to put his tongue on the post out there. Yeah. That school is in St. Catharines, right? And that's right next to Laura Secord, the school where Rush did their first television appearance. So when I tell people in St. Catharines, like, well, any places of interest, I said, well, there's the school where the kid put his tongue on the pole in Christmas Stories here. So anyway, so those are some of my favorites. I did try and watch the new Michelle Pfeiffer movie, and I can't even remember the name of it because it was really awful, and it had a great cast in it. There was some really good people in it, and there's a couple of some good music in it too. But the movie was terrible. So anyway, that's some of the Christmas movies. I still have a few things that I'm yet to watch over the holidays. I did watch a couple of films that aren't Christmas movies, but are just out now as part of the season. The new Frankenstein movie I thought was kind of interesting. Very, very well done. And
that's a segue from Christmas movies into Frankenstein.
Frankenstein and the Knives Out one series is out now, and it's very dark. But anyway, happy holidays, everybody, and Merry Christmas.
Okay. I want to play a little clip from a song here. Hang on.
Yeah.
There's a cool song from 1999, Sing It Back. That's from Moloko. And Mark Bryden of Moloko turns 65 this week, a producer, remixer guy who, it's the song 152 on Rolling Stone's 200 Greatest Dance Songs of All Time. Moloko, Sing It Back. Great little song. Also birthdays. Youth. You know Youth's real name, Ivar?
Well, now it's probably older.
Martin Glover. Yeah.
It's not older. Okay.
Yeah. So Youth is one of the originals of Killing Joke, the early years, and left to become more of a producer remixer over the years, and just goes by the name Youth. And you see him if you're one of the ones who likes to look at the liner notes and look at albums and some remixes and stuff and look at who did the remix or the production or other production, you'll see his name in a lot of things. He's been involved with a lot of people, and it really ranges. What's that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really been sort of, working from everybody from U2 to a lot of sort of, post-punk original bands that were kind of adjacent to Killing Joke. He was a big part of that scene in producing a lot of those people. But again, over the years, as you sort of branched out, and U2 used him quite a bit in a lot of their production.
Yes. And even Kate Bush. I think we were talking about Kate Bush, Hounds of Love.
Yes, in that interview that we had. Yes, absolutely. That she was working with him as well back in '79, I think it was. So
yeah, he was on that album too. And the other one we want to mention here, although he has passed, he would have turned 70 this week, David Allen of Gang of Four and Shriekback, who passed away in April this year.
And that was quite sad because this was, this year, Gang of Four basically did their farewell tour. They sort of said, we're not doing it anymore. Went out and on the road. I got to see them. They came to the Opera House in Toronto this past summer, did a fabulous show. I was so glad I got to see them one last time. So it's a shame that Dave Allen wasn't part of that, although I don't believe he was in the band the last couple of years either. But anyway, sorry to see him go because he was a very big part of that original sound of Gang of Four. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to look back at 2025. We lost a lot of people, and Ivor and I were just talking about Rob Reiner the other day. We wanted to include Rob in this. It is such a tragic, there are some people this past year that have passed away and lived to a great age and had great lives and careers. And then there's what happened to Rob Reiner has just shocked everybody. We bring him into this conversation because he was involved in Spinal Tap, of course, the first and the second film, and that had such a great musical story to it. But a real tough one, the Rob Reiner and his wife too.
I think absolutely, just a shocking thing, and when it happens with family too that are involved in it, it really hits home hard. And he did so many things out for his various communities too, and so this is a real shame to have lost him. And I think guys in our age group too. I loved him as his character in All in the Family is Meathead
yeah.
too, right? From way back when in the 1970s. So we've had Rob Reiner in our life for 50 plus years or whatever, and now we've lost him tragically. So
Yeah, one of my all-time favorite films, Princess Bride. Just absolutely, he's just the way and his humor, it just is like so connected to kind of my sense of humor too, and the Spinal Tap. And you saw the second one. You said it wasn't, and I haven't seen the second one.
I,
Wasn't
yeah,
didn't
I
hold up at
just
all,
I don't.
unfortunately.
It kind of fell flat. But I remember it was the same thing for the Blues Brothers, right? Love the first movie. It couldn't have been. It was one of my all-time favorite movies, and then that Blues Brothers 2000 was like bigger budget, bigger cast, like just every musician under the sun was in that movie, and it just fell flat in its face. It just never did it. And I just think that this Spinal Tap this year, it came and went, and I think part of it was probably just too long between movies or whatever, and those guys were really old now, and so I think it was hard to even though you get McCartney and people like that are in their 80s out there playing. I just think with Spinal Tap, it was like, oh my god, it was like it was old at the first one, and then you go from 1984 to 2025. Wasn't a favorite of mine, that's for sure.
Yeah. So let me go down. I'm just going to read off a list here. These are people who we've lost this past year in 2025. I'm going to read off the list, and then we'll choose to talk about a couple of these people. So David Ball of Soft Cell, also a side group called The Grid that he worked on, did some really great stuff, obviously, with The Grid and Soft Cell. David Ball. Stephen Lescombe of Blamage. I was going to say Blancmange. Blamage. Stephen Leckie of the Viletones, Rick Butler of the Jam, Mike Peters of the Alarm, Rick Davies of Supertramp, John Donaby, who we know from many great
Toronto radio,
Toronto
Chum
radio
days.
and days at Chum FM, Kevin Staples of Rough Trade, Rick Derringer, Doug McCarthy of Nitzer Ebb, Chuck Mangione, Jimmy Cliff, Sly Stone, Marianne Faithfull, Brian Wilson, Ozzy Osbourne, and those are just a few.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly have the ones that hit me hard out of that one. Being a huge Jam fan, Rick Buckler, losing him. I mean, they had just talked about doing some more things with From the Jam, and he was pretty friendly with Weller. So I mean, I know the Jam were never going to get back together, but that one to me is like the Jam would never get back together again after Buckler, and saw him play with the Jam many times too. The Soft Cell thing, I mean, David Ball, I mean, he was the keyboard guy. He wrote, so much of that stuff. I know I wasn't so much a Grid guy that you were when your dance days. One you didn't mention was Garth Hudson from the band. And so he was the last living member of the band. So you've got certainly one of Canada's most iconic bands with no members left. Stephen Leckie and Kevin Staples. There's two artists, part of the Toronto scene, Toronto names. Two of the most iconic from the CFNY era and part of the CFNY history that we lost this past year. Then we go to Jimmy Cliff. To me, Jimmy Cliff, outside of Bob Marley, he's probably in the top 5 for founding fathers of reggae. So that one to me was very difficult, I think. And he was very active the last couple of years. He was still making records. He was still playing dates. So that one was a bit of a surprise. Sly Stone, for all of his influence and everything, wasn't a huge surprise to me. The guy was homeless for a number of years. And even, I never got to see the guy play, and partly because he was very unreliable back in the day. I remember in the 80s, it'd be like, oh, Sly Stone's coming to Toronto. And David Marsden knew better. He goes, that show's not going to happen or whatever. And it was like one of those classic, like you'd go to the club at 9 o'clock and there it was 2 a.m. He still wasn't on stage. And so anyway, but he certainly, Sly and the Family Stone being one of the first interracial bands that crossed over to the rock world and the pop world in the late 60s and early 70s were pioneers in doing that, and it had such a string of big hits way back when. So that's a big loss. Brian Wilson too. I mean, he's absolutely an essential. I mean, I don't know, Scott, you're pretty good at pulling up the Rolling Stones greatest songs of all time or whatever, and those 1,000 songs you must own. I mean, say that God Only Knows is probably in the top 5 on everybody's list. There's probably nothing closer to that. I mean, I loved his book. I got a chance to meet him once. I loved the rivalry that they had between the Beach Boys and the Beatles, and how Brian Wilson used to lose it when a Beatles record came out, and he goes, "They're doing what?" And they always tried to keep ahead of one another with the production and things there. And so, I mean, he was such a musical genius. And then the other one, for me, just was, before I got into punk and got into new wave, and before that all happened, when I was growing up, Black Sabbath were always one of my top acts, and losing Ozzy, even though you kind of knew it was coming, that really hit hard. And then once Ozzy had passed and the news of that came out, honestly, I think the news of that was as impactful as when Princess Di left us. It was just absolutely mind-boggling how that took over the world of music, and took over the press and media, and everything around that, and the streets of Birmingham, and the thousands upon thousands of people that were there. So it kind of hit hard. When it happened, I was driving home. I was out near Oakville, and I heard it. There was a news flash that came on the BBC that flashed up on my phone. So the first thing I did, I knew that there was an independent record store not far from me. I went straight to that indie record store, bought myself a Sabbath bootleg, went home and celebrated with listening to that. And there was a killer version of War Pigs on it I'd never heard of before. And I also...
just to that, I was going to say, Ivor is just such an iconic character. Just his personality, larger than life. And if you talk about rock star personalities, that's one of the biggest. And of course, Sabbath, represented, they were really the first heavy metal band, were they not? Like, and how
they were pretty much it. They invented it. There was a few other people on the fringe, but they invented it.
But they are the kings in that way. And every person into heavy rock after that point, or band or whoever, references Ozzy and Black Sabbath, as they were the godfathers, right?
And they did that show in Birmingham, and God bless them for giving. They gave all the money that made on that show to the Children's Hospital in Birmingham, and I thought that was a wonderful thing. But I mean, they got everybody who's anybody in the world of hard rock and surrounding bands to be on that. There was very few people who didn't attend that, and it was a wonderful thing. There was you had to pay online to watch it, and I paid for the subscription to watch it, and it was truly one of the greatest live events of 2025. If I have a regret this year of not seeing somebody, because I had some friends that said, well, maybe if we can get tickets, we should try and go. Probably just didn't try hard enough, because it would have been a great thing to attend. I mean, it just, like the musicianship and the people that were there, and like, oh my God, he couldn't have gone out any better than the way that he did. And it was only 3 weeks afterwards that he passed away.
Now, interestingly, same time period, same week, but 10 years ago, hard to believe, it's been 10 years since Lemmy, Motorhead, passed away. That was a big one.
So that was, well, it was. I mean, I always prided myself on, there's certain bands that, we talked about Springsteen and some of these bands that you really love in your life, and you go, okay, I'm going to buy the records, I'm going to go see the shows, play them on the radio when the program director allows you to, and do it anyway. But I always tried to go and see Motorhead whenever they came to town, and sometimes they were great, sometimes they weren't so good. And in later years, it was when Lemmy's health wasn't helping, but wasn't getting any better. It wasn't the greatest. But they played their last show in Toronto at Riot Fest. It was up Downsview Park in early September 2015, and I went to see that, and I will always thank Megan Simsick from the Rush camp, because she got me in, and not only did she get me in, she got me side stage for the show. So we got to stand side stage for the Motorhead set. But Lemmy was not in good health by that time, and he just basically stood there frozen, barely moved from the stage at all. They went through, it was a short set.
Wow.
And there was an ambulance backstage in case something happened. And there it was 3 months later. It was during this time frame, Christmas holidays. I was walking home from a movie. I think it was at the Carlton Cinema. I'm walking home, and I was listening to the radio or whatever, and I just saw that, or actually I wasn't listening to the radio. I saw a news flash. I opened up my phone and said that Lemmy had passed. And so all I could do at the time was I walked into a bar on Danforth called Factory Girl, which is actually a Rolling Stones tribute bar right beside the Danforth Music Hall. And I walked up to the bar and said, I need a Jack Daniels and Coke right now. 2 drinks that I have not drank. I haven't drank Coke in almost 20 years. I haven't drank Jack Daniels since I was a teenager. I had that same experience that you did, Scott, with vodka and orange juice or whatever it was with Jack Daniels. But because that was Lemmy's drink, I decided to have that, and that was my my little tribute to Lemmy. And that was also the first time that I also watched a funeral online or whatever. There was a big funeral for him online. And incredible influence on the world of metal, similar to what the Black Sabbath did, but the difference being that all the punks, not that the punks didn't love Ozzy, but they loved Lemmy more.
Okay, we got some Christmas stuff to finish. We got some Christmas songs, a little snippets of a few Christmas songs that we're going to play here in a second. Just wanted to touch on just briefly, we did promise at the top of the show, we talk about 2026 concerts and a concert calendar. Ira and I have been working on a concert calendar we're going to post on our socials. But just, I don't know if you have it near you, Ira, to look ahead.
Yeah, I do. I got it here.
Yeah, we've already seen some shows announced. It's funny that so far in advance, like Peter Hook is going to be back again. Peter Hook, formerly of New Order, and of course Joy Division before that. Peter Hook and the Light playing History in August. We talked already about the Rush shows coming up this year. Echo and the Bunnymen are coming back at History in June. We've got let's see, a number. Oh, you pick a couple, Ivor. It's a busy year already.
Yeah, it is, and I think there obviously will be a lot more coming. End of August next year, Iron Maiden, 29th and 30th of August at Scotiabank. We will see this band that I think is great, one of Australia's greatest kick-ass punk bands of today, Amyl and the Sniffers, coming to the RBC Amphitheater in June. Cake, May 28th at the RBC Amphitheater. Bell and Sebastian at Massey Hall, 25th and 26th of May. And our friend Ed Sousa is going to have his usual return acts to the Classic Bowl out in Mississauga. He's got in May Strange Advance and Teenage Head, Jesus Jones, Derek Forbes, formerly of Simple Minds. And for the first time, is Gene Loves Jezebel coming out the Classic Bowl. So he's got some, a reasonable lineup for next year. So a few good things. David Marsden's going to be doing a rare speaker series thing at the Redwood Theatre in Toronto on the 5th of March. So you're going to want to check that one out. We're going to hear some good stories there.
That's great. Very timely too, because of the documentary. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Fallsview Casino, Boy George and Culture Club playing March 5th. So if you're out of town and down in this area, you'll be able to get a chance to see Boy George.
Yep. Joe Jackson also too, another one. If you missed that, Joe Jackson and band, that'll be great, because that Joe Jackson's great live. Danforth Music Hall, that's in May. And there's other shows that are just being announced, and we talked about that hopefully some of these tours will make it over here. I know there's people like Human League that have been doing some tours in the UK that have not traveled across the ocean to play North America, but maybe that'll happen in 2026.
I think there'll be a few surprises. There always is, right? We get some things that we didn't. I mean, it had been many, many years since Soft Cell had been here, and they finally were back last year. So let's see what happens.
Okay, wanted to make sure we got in a couple of classics before we finish off the show this week, being the Christmas edition. And let me play this. Oh, yeah, here we go. Oh, yeah, this is a classic. I think we'll play the whole thing, so sit back, turn it up.
Good.
Check this one. Looked under my tree, and it was there. The Christmas present I wanted all year. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I said, look out, you imps, 'cause I'm coming through. I got my engines revving. Lock up your women and your children too. I'm on my way to heaven with my snow removal.
Freddy's got a snow.
Snow removal machine. Rip it up. Noise maker.
Freddy's got a snow.
Snow removal machine. Ooh, yeah! Look out, here I come. 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 Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna make noise, my baby. A whole lot of noise, my baby. Gonna wake you up, my baby. With my stove going down, my baby. We got neighbors, my neighbors. Get up, neighbors.
Oh, it was fun to hear that one again. I got to say that we're, for some reason, you hear about these stories in the music business, like we could not locate the master tapes. So if you knew that song, the original version had some talk in it, talking about Fred yelling at the neighbors and
there's
3
a great
o'clock
part
in the morning and things. And for some reason, that tape is not available, or the version that they have can only fit in a cart machine, and nobody has a cart machine in 2025.
Yeah.
So that's why
It's
we
like
had to play that one. That
the
version.
radio edit, snow removal machine, Freddie P. Fantastic. Just on a side note here, not a side note, but we're talking about Christmas. Let's just make sure we get in the Ivar teardown. For those that might be downloading, listening to this podcast, if you get this by the 21st, you want to check out a number of shows Ivar's doing on the 21st. Go ahead, Ivar.
So for the first time ever, I am doing 3 Christmas radio shows on 3 different radio stations in 3 days. So we start off with David Marsden's nythespirit.com. We are on at 4 o'clock on David's show and or David's station. The advantage for me on that outlet is that we're not governed by the CRTC and radio laws, so we can play songs that you couldn't play on normal commercial radio. So we're gonna have we'll have some fun with that. And I got a little bit of comedy in there, but we've got what do we got in here? We got a new version of Stop the Cavalry from the Future Heads. We got the Sonics, the Ravillos, the Wizard, Roy Wood's Wizard, the Yobs. Now the Yobs on 45, which is a rarity, but that's one that people always asked for over the years. A new version also of I Believe in Father Christmas by a guy named Alex DPRS, who prides himself in doing U2. All his songs sound like U2, so it's kind of like U2 doing doing Greg Lake. So anyway, that's just what we're doing on that. Then we move over to the mothership CFNY, the original CFNY, and doing the Time Machine show, and it is happening at 6 p.m. Eastern. And talked them into doing a Spirit of Radio Christmas show. So on that show, we have Kate Bush. December will be Magic again, along with that special. She did a special Christmas ID for us when you and I did that interview back in '85.
Yeah.
I've got the Slime Dogs, I Want Santa, which was a real classic for CFNYers way back when, the CFNY house band. We've got Captain Sensible, One Christmas Catalog. The Waitress is on there. Of course, we'll be playing the Pogues and Maztec Cameras. So that's just a taste of what's going on there. And then I make my way down to Buffalo, Scott, and the Bridge is moving my show from the normal Thursday night 10 o'clock time slot, and we're doing a Christmas party themed show on the 21st, and this is going to be fun. And one of the artists that I really get a big kick out of that's isn't around anymore. He passed away this year too, but is this guy named Bob Rivers, who made all these Christmas parody songs. So we got a couple of those that we're going to be playing on that particular night. But we've also got Blondie with Fab Five Freddy. We've got XTC's Thanks for Christmas, the Shins. I don't know if you knew this one or not, but Oasis recorded Slade's Merry Christmas, Everybody a few years back, which I hadn't heard until this year. We've got the Greedies, that's the Pistols featuring Thin Lizzy. And so that and much more. So, Scott, I don't know if we have any more music there, but I sent you some more of that Christmas music.
Absolutely.
Is that queued up? Or
Well, yeah. Do you want to? I had queued up and ready was the Pogues original, one of the original versions of Fairytale of New York. Do you want me to play a little bit of this?
So, yeah, let's play a little bit of that, because there's a little bit of back end story to that one. So let's talk about that one, because we're going to be playing the Pogues twice on those shows this Sunday.
Yeah, so let me set this up a little bit. So there's a bit of a story to it, but one of the earlier incarnations of this song was Kate O'Riordan. Get that name right,
yes.
Kate O'Riordan. She sings on it instead of Kirsty McCall. Kirsty McCall was added later. Anyway, this is one of the original demos.
Yeah, let's hear that.
Anyway, that's a little snippet of it there. Quite different from the Kirsty McCall version. Now, there's
it really is.
Yes. So there's a clip from a great interview that was done by David Hartley on YouTube, and we pulled the clip for you to play. And this is Steve Lillywhite, who was brought in.
Lillywhite, who produced it. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't the first producer, but he was brought in, I believe, right?
Yes.
This is him talking about putting that song together.
Well, first off, the band said, we've always had trouble recording this song because we can never transition from the first part of the song into the second part of the song when we've tried to record it. And I went, well, that's really easy. All you have to do, we'll concentrate on getting the first part of the song right, and then we'll do the second part of the song separate. I've got the razor blade, I can cut the tape, and I can join the two together. Now, that sounds like, a really simple thing, but the fact is, no one had said that to them, so they went, oh, yeah, of course. So straight off, this big sort of problem that they had in their heads about recording this song was gone. So we really concentrated on the opening couple of verses, which is just, at the time, it was piano played by James Fernley, the accordion player, and Shane singing.
It was Christmas Eve, babe, in the drunk tank.
I had to listen so hard to what he was doing, and I had to practice and practice and practice to get my part right before we even went into the studio. I'd never done so much practicing on anything.
the rare old mountain dew, turn my face away.
So, you know, once we worked on that, then the band could go, oh, now we've got this much smaller part. You know, it was just psychologically, there was like something was lifted from them.
That's Steve Lillywhite, the producer there, talking about
I will say
Fairytale
that-
of New York.
Go ahead. So, yes, sorry about
finish.
that. Anyway, I was going to say that, and it was originally a bet around that song. There was a challenge from the Pogues manager and Elvis Costello saying, you guys can't do a Christmas song. You just don't have it in you. And then this sort of whole thing went on about putting something together, and it went in different directions. That song sat around for almost 3 years before they finally got the finished version together on that one. And obviously in the end, it's turned out to be one of the greatest Christmas songs of all time. So thank God that they got that second version together. I mean, no offense to Kate.
Yeah.
Kate, you're pretty good, but boy, oh boy, Kirsty did a much better job, I got to say. And obviously the band and their arrangements and everything that happened. And obviously switching over from Elvis to Lillywhite, you know, made a huge difference in that whole sound and how it was arranged too. So
quite a process, though. Quite a process. Okay, we're just running out of time. Is there any? I got a couple other Christmas songs here. If there's one or a little bit of one or two you want me to play, Ivor?
Yeah, let's just hear a couple of just some fun stuff. What do you got there, Scott?
Well, pick one. You want the
Did you
Slime
have
Dogs?
Sled
Do you
Zeppelin
want
there?
Sled Zeppelin?
Let's go with Sled Zeppelin, because I don't think a lot of people have heard Sled Zeppelin before.
Okay.
That wasn't one of the bigger ones.
Dashing through the snow, oh ho ho ho. What a field he goes, oh ho ho.
You get the idea. That's really cute, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And then you do a little snippet of I Want Santa, if you don't mind, too. Slime
let's
Dogs.
see what I got here. I've got I don't know if I have that one in here. I've got Elvis,
you know?
Slime Dogs.
Elvis. This is cool.
Christmas.
Put the Elvis up.
Is this
do the Elvis one.
Okay.
Yeah, Feliz Navidad, because you'll know the music once you hear it in it.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
So that's what I love about that song. You go, oh, it's public image. You get lied and come screaming. They got Feliz Navidad. So you're gonna hear both of those on the bridge show, my Christmas dance party or whatever. So
okay, I got one more here. I'm not sure which one this is. Hang on.
this one's kind of fun. Well, not so much fun,
Okay,
but
hang
I
on.
love the rhetoric on it. It's the future heads.
My mother would say to me, upstairs and go to sleep. Wake up in a dream. Christmas was better in the 80s, better in the 1980s.
So, the future heads weren't around in the 80s, but they wrote this fabulous song. The Christmas was better in the 1980s. And they relate to all these things. So I listen to this song and I keep thinking of like the things that we used to do, my Christmas memories of, those Christmas parties and road shows and family time and all those things. And that just kind of brings me back to it. They put out an album just recently, and it's Christmas. It's a straight Christmas record. There's a new version of Jonah Louis' "Stop the Cavalry" on there too. So,
Okay, I got one more here. I've got Elvis, Slime Dogs, Christmas was better in the 80s, better in the 1980s. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
so.
All right,
it looks like we lost Scott. So if we've lost Scott here on this, we are going to say happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everybody. Thanks so much for supporting Scott and I on Music Milestones YYZ. We will see you again next week. Be safe. We love you all.